Displacement mapping is the most realistic way to simulate surface relief because it actually moves or displaces the geometry at render time. However, it's computationally expensive, so it can take a long time to render. But it's an innovative modeling technique, in fact, that uses the material to determine what is modeled. Let's create a plane primitive, and we'll use a material to turn this into a landscape model. Right now, as you can see, it's flat as a pancake. Go to the material editor and assign a standard material to the plane. Don't worry about making the appearance of the object look realistic yet. Let's focus only on displacement. Go to the Maps rollout and click the None button for the displacement component. Select Bitmap and locate the landscape displaced JPEG that I'm supplying in the sample files folder. This image is grayscale and it was made in Photoshop. It goes beyond the scope of this product to explain how you can use brushes in Photoshop to make something like this. But suffice it to say, it's not too hard to create a grayscale map that has variation indicating different elevations in the landscape. This will be a mountain peak because it's the brightest area, and will have ridges and valleys as the intensities of the grays change. Show the map in the viewport and uncheck Use Real-World Scale. Set tiling to 1 in UNV, and it's also necessary to uncheck Real-World Map Size in the primitive so that you can view the bitmap tiling once on the plane. Primitives and compound objects need the Displace Approximation modifier. Other object types and data types don't need this because they have a built-in subdivision displacement rollout. This essentially gives us the ability to subdivide the plane with the material. So far, so good. If we render now, we will see some displacement. Now that's fantastic. You can see clearly that the plane is no longer flat. It's being pushed up by this grayscale map. If you want interactivity in the viewport, apply the Displace Mesh World Space modifier. This allows you to see the displacement in the viewport. It doesn't wait until render time to do the displacement. You can see it now. It increases the polygon count in your scene though. You can see that here in the top viewport. We started out with a 4x4 plane and now we have many more polygons. You have to hit Update Mesh to manually update it if anything changes. I'll go back to the material editor and go up a level to the parent material and increase the height of the mountains by increasing this amount. I'll set it at 200% and then click Update Mesh and you'll see that the mountain peaks got higher. If we want more detail in the landscape, we can go to the Displacement Approximation modifier and use the High Subdivision preset. This will add more polygons, but we'll start to see more detail. You can add even more detail if you go to the plane and increase the number of segments that it starts out with. I'll make it an 8x8 plane. And I'll go up to the Displace Mesh binding and update it. And we see quite a bit more detail now. But the polygon count is pretty high as well. I'll show the statistics, and you can see that this plane is now at 32,000 polygons. Still, it will render relatively quickly because it's the only object in the scene. If we turn off the displace mesh binding, we no longer see the displacement in the viewport, but it's still there, and it will appear when we make a rendering.